in the soul to feel such things, but weak to watch without speaking. Oh, what mercy sadness brings, if God be willing. There is a train that's...
Excuse me for the long intro, but it's a Deep Fear song of mine, Redemption Day. But I'd like to welcome everybody to Cognitive Rampage. It's the first showing. My name is Adam Lowery. I have a very dear good friend and mentor here with me, Leo D'Anniballe.
Glad to be here.
Well, starting off first, you'll notice we're a little rigged right now. We're just starting out, so there's some equipment, some things we got to put together. So we just asked you to kind of grow with us too, as we're just chatting here. As you'll notice, the tagline with Cognitive Rampage is Seeding Transcendence. And essentially what all we're going to do is just kind of talk about the things that the human experience brings to us. You know, life, experiences, what we've been through, what we know, all sorts of things. Just kind of seeing where the conversation goes with us. I'm a little transparent in my life, so I'll tell a little bit about my life as we go along. You'll see the studio change a little bit as we start to grow. I'll be doing this show once a week, Saturday at 8 o'clock. I'll have different guests joining me. Leo, he actually aired his first podcast last week. His show is called Truth, Not Emotion. Leo is a licensed clinical social worker, a guitar player, a connoisseur of sorts, and a mentor to myself. I like Tim Ferriss, which is another great podcast that I suggest everyone listen to. Tim Ferriss is an amazing gentleman. He wrote the 4-Hour Work Week. But, you know, like him, I believe in having mentors, whether they be virtual, like Jim Ferriss talks about, or, you know, mentors that you work with every day. And I'm actually about to graduate this August with a Master's in Mental Health Counseling. My life has been somewhat of a storybook. I almost came this way into counseling almost to a purpose to save my life, something we'll probably get into, you know, eventually in the future. But, you know, I've just been inspired lately by a lot of those podcasts that are out there that are talking about new thoughts, new age, you know, just rethinking the human experience. And I couldn't help it. I wanted to be a part of that. Leo, his podcast is excellent. If you're ever looking for a podcast that's going to inform you about how to get it right in life, he's an expert on relationships and especially women's issues. His podcast is Sunday at 6 p.m. Truth, Not Emotion is his podcast. But we'll be back and forth on each other's podcasts, sharing some time together, but just sitting. I wanted Leo to be a part of my first broadcast just because he's meant so much to my life over the last, probably since last August. I've been doing my internship with Leo and has just added to my counseling experience and my life along the way, and an interesting character, really, if you ask me. I've got some good stories along the way. You know, that maybe some we can share, maybe some we cannot, but you know, we're both professionals and have to think about it to an extent, but we want to always be real. You know, that's the beauty of podcasts, is that you can talk about real life, you can be yourself, go where the topic goes. We're really fucking uncensored. Sorry, I just had to say that. Those of you that know me anyway know I kind of have a problem with that already, as Leo educated me once already.
Yeah, sometimes you get interesting, you get colorful. But, I mean, you got to get your emotion into it, too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, part of what we do here is we're not just talking about emotion, but trying to understand it. And, you know, by understanding your own emotions, then you can relate better to better understanding other people's. Part of what I do in my podcast, you know, Truth, Not Emotion, is to actually separate the two, because it gets pretty confusing when you try to blend them. That's why people have a hard time giving themselves advice, because there's way too many emotional clouds. Emotions make things complicated. So
he has tons of Leoisms that you'll hear throughout his show.
I don't know.
He almost dropped the Leoism right there, but Emotions make lousy choices is where he was going, but you see, he can't help it. He's a mentor, even to you all out there in land, right into telling you how to run the life and do it correctly.
Well, I won't tell you how to run it. I mean, that'd be the last thing. I have no idea how you want to run your life. But hopefully I try to give you some different ideas, different choices, and ultimately it's your call. I mean, life's about choices, right? So, and that's where Adam's made some interesting choices in his life, which has brought him to this point in time. And he needs a pat on the back because he could have gone down a lot of different roads.
I went down a lot of those roads, let's be honest.
But,
I mean, for those, I know there's at least 2 people watching
yeah.
that know those roads very specifically, but we won't discuss them here.
Yeah, but it's giving you wisdom. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
We all got wisdom. You know, the question is, do we tap into it? And a lot of times you lose track of that wisdom if you're living on impulse, you know, in the moment. I mean, that will mess you up.
Now, how often do you think you actually really live on impulse, like yourself? I mean, honestly, and not the basic day-to-day impulse. Like, you know, I try to not live impulsively.
Right.
But I mean, what determines impulsive or not impulsive? I mean,
well, I mean, everyone's impulsive. I mean, we get excited about things. We get, you know, pissed off about things. I mean, it's just a natural way of living. But when you get to those things where you get that, you start second guessing yourself. Those are the ones you need to hold up on, because if you let emotion push through, yeah, then oftentimes you can end up on the rocks. But if you just pause just for a little bit, then all that wisdom sort of catches up to the present.
yeah.
And at that moment, doesn't mean there's still not a lot of emotional clouds. But that's why I use that idea that when in doubt, do what you would advise. Because
now, I always found that amazing. You know, that's another
yeah.
Leoism you always use that I learned
Yeah.
from you. You know, the when in doubt, do what you would advise. And, you know, I've used that in a couple groups that I've run, and, you know, I do some therapy myself, as you know, you've been with me. But,
Right.
you know, and I use those Leoisms, and they come out so quickly. But that one, it seems to always, you know, with the group that I'm sitting with, it resonates deeper sometimes when people, you know, connect that when in doubt, do what you'd advise.
Well, I mean, everyone gives good advice. Even when you're messed up, you give good advice.
And why?
Well, because in that moment you're being objective. Okay, I mean...
so there's no emotion in it for you?
Well, I mean, let's say you're giving advice to someone you really care about. There's emotion there.
Yeah.
But you're trying to give them the benefit of your truth. And your truth only comes from what you've lived. So it causes you to step back, even for a moment, and run through all that memory of everything you've been through. And, you know, ching out comes the tape like, yeah, that's a good idea, or no, you don't want to do that. And when you tell them that, you absolutely, you know that's true, based on your truth. So in that moment, you're tapping into it. And so whatever you would want them to do or not do, that's when you're being objective. And you care about what they're doing. There is an emotion there. Mm-hmm. So if you do what you'd advise in that moment, then afterwards there's another emotion that follows it, because we tend to feel pretty good about responding to the truth. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm glad I did that. Yeah. And because I felt good about what I did, then I'm more likely to make another good choice. Because I made a good choice, I'm more likely to feel good. Now, those are all feelings, but they're linked to the truth. I mean, if you're just riding that wave and you decide, yeah, this would be really cool to do, and you're just living in that moment with that emotion.
Well, see that when you talk about living in the moment, you know, we're preached to for so long, you know, as kids or whatever, you know, from seize the moment or seize the day, you know, to living in that moment. That sometimes I don't know, it's so hard. I mean, to separate this go attitude of carpe diem to pause, you know, be more analytical, you know, process the moment. I mean, it's difficult.
Well, no, I mean, I'm totally for actually staying here now. But that's the thing, when you're done with emotion, you're not in the moment. You're anticipating what's going to happen.
Ah.
Okay, now you're out there saying this is going to be great. Or, you know, you're excited about what's about to be. Mm. You're not in that moment. If you're in the moment, that's when you have a chance to collect that wisdom and say, is this a good idea or not? Mm. So it's sort of like, what's in my best interest, short term versus long term. Right. So short term, this sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. But long term, yeah, I think I've already be kicking myself in the butt for this. So, yeah, being in the moment also means if you're in the moment, that's when the wisdom's going to catch up. you're not in the moment, if you're already out there, you cut your ties to your wisdom. And you're just rolling with the feelings. And those are the ones that get us in trouble.
Yeah. You know, and the rolling with the feelings, early in my counseling career, which I am, and, being a novice still in so many things, but, that cognitive approach that, everything connects to that thought, that part changed my life years ago, a long time ago when I first read Albert Ellis's book, A New Guide to Rational Living.
Yeah.
That concept just, it hit me so hard, and obviously it's the foundation of everything that I do in the group and I believe. And for those of you, I mean, in layman's terms, we're talking, everything begins with a thought. We have this thought in our mind that creates the feeling, that creates the behavior. So if there's a feeling that we don't want anymore, a behavior we want to change, you have to dive into what the thought is and reframe that thought or restructure the thought, looking for a rational context in the initial thought, and then reframing it to being something more positive, essentially, and change in your behavior. But, that whole concept, when I talk about that in groups or even in my own theory that, I have and you've helped me, kind of modify, that idea always seems to hit people so quickly. When I use this same metaphor, when I talk about walking down the street, guy bangs into my shoulder. They teach, as a kid, you got to stand up for yourself. No one should disrespect you. So if I'm walking down the street and buddy bangs into my shoulder, and my belief is, I have to defend myself. He disrespected me. Then I turn around. My feeling is that of probably aggravation, and I may behave violently or something. But if I walk down the street, a guy runs into my shoulder, and essentially the first thing I do, if my belief is no longer that, hey, maybe I was in his way. Maybe he's late for a funeral. Just by changing that immediate belief, I turn around. How do I feel? It's different. My behavior is obviously different. Right. And I talk about that in class, and it's like no magic wand. Nothing happened. It's that simple belief change, to modify the feeling. And I mean, it's sorry to kind of run off, but that's kind of, I think, where you were leading to.
Well, I mean, even negative feelings have their place. Everything doesn't have to be positive, and it's not going to be that way. Even anger can be a positive emotion.
How? I know every time I got mad, it was never a good thing.
Well,
I mean, it's obviously my fault, but
it depends on how you're using it, that energy. I mean, like, let's say you keep making the same mistakes over and over again, and you say, I'll be damned if I'm going to do that anymore. That's anger, but it propels you into a positive direction. Okay, so it's not sometimes what we're thinking, but it's how we're thinking. So if we can actually take that and use it, then that's powerful energy. But if we're taking the situation you talked about and we're looking at that guy that ran into us, we're personalizing it then. We made something that's situational personal. And then when you go to personal, then you're digging in his emotions, and then you're reacting, okay, instead of responding. But if you take a moment and just think about it, it's like, let's like say those shorts you're wearing, which are really interesting.
Couldn't help it, I know.
Let's say someone says, those have got to be the ugliest shorts I've ever seen.
Oh, come on.
Okay, let's just say
I'm in
someone
South
says
Florida.
See, now, that's
I
right.
blame.
This is what you're telling this person. Okay, you take offense. Like, what'd you say? You got bad taste or something?
Right.
All right, you're wearing another pair of shorts tomorrow. They say, those are the best looking shorts I ever saw in my life.
All right.
At that moment, you realize, wait a minute. This isn't about me. It's about my shorts. They don't even know who I am. But if we start to personalize it, okay, that's where the emotion starts taking it down those roads that you don't want to go by. But if you can separate situation from self, now you have control over if I want to respond or react. And then you can take something that eventually you can work through that, yeah, at first that sort of ticked me off, but if I just pause for that moment and realize, I don't even know who I am, so, and that becomes situational stuff. And the idea, I mean, the way I try to look at it is, I mean, you got to let situational stuff flow around you, not through you. Okay, the minute you start letting stuff flow through you, you're going to get drained real quick, because now everything is getting a piece of you. I mean, I use the idea that if it's not important to you with 2 hours to live, it should be flowing around you.
That's another one of those Leoism questions, right? That when in doubt, do what you advise. Now, if you had 2 minutes to live, or whatever, 2 days to
we
live,
make life way too complicated. I mean, it's like if it's not important with 2 hours to live, what would be important with 2 hours to live? Okay, let that flow through. The gate's open.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm getting ticked off, and I think to myself, all right, if I had 2 hours to live, what I'm being pissed off about would probably fall to number, 3,422.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I treating this like a top 5?
Right. Yeah.
So a way of prioritizing to separate that allows you to be in control instead of the situation and control you. And that just feels right.
Left field. Would you want to know when you had 2 hours to live?
What I want to know?
Would you want to know? Would you want to, like, it comes down and they tell you, okay, here's your clock, just so you know. And it was going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
Right? It was already coming. You just didn't know it. Would you want to know if you had 2 hours left to live?
Well, yeah, probably.
You would?
Yeah, I probably want to know.
First thing you do.
Well, first thing I had done this morning is quit playing golf. I don't want to last 2 hours, really sucking up a course somewhere.
So the first thing you do, what do you do then? Where are you going?
Well, I mean, you go to people that are meaningful to you. People that make a difference in your life.
What would be the thing you'd want to see?
What I want to see.
Make sure, like right now, the first thing, whether you've seen it now or want to see it again. Well, what would it be? You got 2 hours to maybe get there. You may not even make it in time.
Yeah, I'm thinking 2 hours from here.
All right, give it a day then. All right, let's say you got 1 day.
2 hours, end up in a swamp somewhere.
So you can take a flight somewhere, right?
Where I'd want to go? I don't know. That's something I'd have to really give some thought to because, that's purposeful. I don't know. I'd probably like to find myself on a sailboat somewhere.
Yeah.
And just getting some peace.
You can't see the picture. You see the picture behind you. You got the sailboat.
To me, you're really releasing that sense of freedom in there. And I know you're a powerboat guy. But that's because you want to get there now.
Or a kayak guy. I'm paddling deep thoughts.
True.
I'm paddling deep thoughts.
But that's sort of my sailboat name. But the idea is, all you hear is the sound of the wind. Sails flapping. You just feel like you're gliding along there with that air, that wind blowing by. That's sort of coincides that tranquility, serenity, peacefulness. Allows you to collect all those thoughts, get rid of all the junk in your head, and really have some clear vision about what really is life all about. It's moments like that that we look for.
Yeah.
It's true. Because when you face it, life's about moments. It's not about a week. It's not about a place I've been.
That speaks to Carly.
It's about moments.
Life's not about the number of breaths you take. About the number of moments to take.
No one looks back and remembers a week or a month.
Yeah.
You just remember moments.
That's true. Like little photographs that go off in your mind.
Exactly.
And you always remember something with like a still frame. If you notice, you go back to a picture, it starts with this little still frame.
That'll trigger.
Is it weird that I see a Polaroid? Or is that just dating myself?
That's just dating yourself.
Yeah. Okay. I was just wondering.
Wow. But if it works for you, that's fine. But no, the moment is, you always collect those. And that's why your energy is so important. Because either you're going to waste that energy, like if you're driving here and someone cuts you off, that anger, like what, you deserve in front of me?
It's not like that really happened on the way here tonight.
Yeah, that's probably has never happened to you, right? Okay. But you figure that energy you just spent on that, you could have actually used
on something good
to go home and create a moment, with your wife and kid or something that may still be important to you, even if you live to be 120.
Yeah.
Instead, you gave it to that guy on the road. You don't even know who the hell they are or care.
Yeah.
So you decide how you're going to use that energy. And if I'm letting these things flow through me, I'm wasting tons of energy that I could actually use to cope more effectively, to actually have moments where I could sit down and do something meaningful or be with someone that makes sense. If not, these people that you'll go home and you dwell on that, and you're burning more energy. So your energy is more valuable than your money.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. I keep referencing Tim Ferriss in his podcast, but he's a brilliant guy. He talks about that recently. One of he just did a really unique idea by putting out a short end podcast. It was like 16 minutes long, but he talked about energy that we have and what not to waste. And he did a really in-depth research, and it sounds empirically backed, but I think Tim can make anything sound that way. But just a great concept about how much energy you use in a day and whether you waste or not. Now, he referenced it toward making decisions, which is still kind of that same concept, is whether you're going to waste and make a decision on being negative, and I tell my wife that, a lot is, I think about each moment that I feel a little anxiety or a moment or that my blood pressure goes up, that's energy like you're talking about that, I could have went home and maybe hugged my daughter a little more or longer, For those of the people that don't know, I was recently married in November, and I have a beautiful daughter. She's mine, 14 years old.
Yeah, she's great.
Oh, man.
And so is your wife. I mean,
volleyball phenom.
You definitely overachieved.
Yeah, I got lucky. I'll say I got lucky.
Definitely.
I learned enough, though, but, definitely smarter than me. I don't know how she deals with me, to be honest with you.
But yeah, every time you start to react to something, you're taking something away from them. Mm-hmm. Which is more important, choice.
Yeah.
And life's about choices, decisions, as you were talking about. That's why I tell people that really get stuck in they start to normalize a certain way of thinking, and they just think that way. Well, why do you think that way? Well, I've always thought that way. Well, but why do you need to continue to think that way? You mean I don't have to? It's like this revelation that comes over. Because if you think of your life as a book, there's no reason your life story can end with an extremely happy ending.
Right.
Because you're writing it.
Yeah, I love that. You say that in your group so much.
You've
I
got
love
all that. You know how to write this book. You got wisdom back there. Chapters filled with examples of what not to do.
Yeah.
But then you figure, as you were talking about decisions and choices, each choice and decision is a page. Okay. And if I just pause long enough to write that page, well, yeah, even now it's like War and Peace, but it's all right. It's all right. It's good. But the more you know, the more you can be aware of what works and what doesn't. But if you don't take the time to figure it out, and you're chugging on, with reacting, emoting, yeah, that's where you're not taking advantage of that resource.
Yeah.
So,
and that I find so much. Obviously there's many people that are lacking in the resources, that are out there, that really need the help, and I'm not denying that. But there are a lot of resources out there, especially when one's willing to, sacrifice, some of their own, time and effort and energy. There really is, from even just the informative podcasts that are out there, to the books and reading and online. The access to information, is so great, these days that, obviously there's things that need professional help and counseling and the stigma about counseling, I think, is screwing so much up. This idea that it's only for crazy people, and I always look at it like an oil change, you know what I mean? But
I think everyone's a little crazy.
Exactly. I would agree.
So, you can't go by that.
But see, part of that craziness, man, is that's that thirst for life. That's that wind in the sails that you're talking about,
Some people call it, enthusiasm or,
language sometimes in your life so wrong.
But the other thing about the therapy, I think a lot of people, they may try it once, and if you don't click with that therapist, you assume, okay, therapy doesn't work for me.
Right.
But
and so people they're quick so much to sell out. If they put at least half the effort they put into not fixing themselves or bettering or growing in their lives, to one more effort at therapy, or try. Right. I swear, and I was that person too for so long, and still struggle, to focus, and that's where my theory comes in, where I almost had developed that theory to keep my own self caged and on point.
Well, no, you just sort of you pull all the strings together, and all those common threads to your past and present, when you start to integrate